Hi everyone. This week we're going to be learning about decimals. This week your child should be able to write decimals to the hundreds place. Your child should also be able to represent decimals using models. And last, your child should be able to relate fractions to decimals. For the first part of writing decimals to the hundreds place, we're going to show students that after the ones place, the place to the right is known as the tenths place. And then the one after the tenths is called the hundredths place. To read numbers with decimals, every time we have the decimal point, we're going to say the word and. So in this example, it would say 3 and 75 hundredths. It's important to remind them that every time you see a decimal point, they have to say the word and. Here's another example of another number with decimals. Here you're going to notice that we don't have anything in the hundredths place. When you don't have a number in the hundredths place, you're just going to read it as tenths. So here we're going to have 2 and 7 tenths. If we have a number that looks like this, students need to know that when you have 2 digits in your decimals, when you have your tenths and hundredths, you're going to read it as hundredths. So this would say 2 and 7 hundredths. Every time you have your 2 places, decimal places, your number will read as hundredths. The only time you will read a number as tenths is when you only have 1 digit. So we already talked about how to write decimals to the hundredths place. Now let's go ahead and focus on representing decimals using models. Here I have 2 different models. I have the hundredths place and I have the tenths place. We're going to go ahead and write a number over here to be represented with models. So I'm going to write 3 and 27 hundredths. Now I'm going to be using these models to represent that number. So since I have a 3 in the ones place, that means that I have to fully shade all three of these models right here. Okay. So these models represent one whole, and if it's fully shaded, it's going to be 3. 3 in the ones place. It's just one whole divided into 100 parts. So each of these have 100 parts. All of these are 100. And I have 3 that are fully shaded. Now this right here is telling me to grab another square, like this one, and only shade 27 hundredths. So out of 100 little pieces, just shade 27. And here I have 3 and 27 hundredths. Let's try another example. In here, I'm only going to have 0 and 7 tenths. So this would just be 7 tenths. That means that if this square is only broken into tenths, into 10 parts, we're only going to shade 7 tenths of it. So this will be 1 tenth of this big square, 2 tenths, 3 tenths, 4, 5, 6, and 7 tenths. And that's why we have models that look like this one. So if you wanted to do 7 tenths on this one, it would be like this. Both of these models, this one and this one, represent 7 tenths. The only difference is that this one has the lines going this way, but you still have 7 tenths shaded. You could also say that you have 70 little pieces that are shaded. In that case, you would say that there are 70 pieces, or 70 out of 100, or 70 hundredths. And that's how you use models to represent decimals. So now we are done representing decimals using models. Now we are going to relate fractions to decimals. So here I have this number. We can use the same number we did before. And this one was 3 and 27 hundredths. And remember it's hundredths because we have our 2 digits in the decimals. Every time we have the 2 digits, we call it hundredths. So we are going to write this as a fraction. That means that we have 3 whole squares shaded, or big squares shaded. And then we have 27 over here. We have 27 out of 100 little parts, 27 hundredths. This is how you write it as a decimal up here, and this is how you write it as a fraction, but they both are read the same way, 3 and 27 hundredths. And then let's do this example, 7 tenths would simply just be 7 tenths as a fraction. They are both read the same way, and over here it would be 70 hundredths. And this is how we relate decimals to fractions. If you have any questions about anything that I talked about in this video, please don't hesitate to send me an email and I will reply to you with an answer. Thank you for watching my video, and I will see you next week on the next video. Thank you.